We're just about there. Linda's going to go grab her music. We're not going to dock the servants. But we'll be beginning.
This one is yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to be together. And and they promised beautiful weather tomorrow and warm weather. So promises to be a beautiful Shabbat starting right now. And we are going to welcome Shabbat with Hine Matov, which is on page 128. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Hine Matov, la 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 la. Hine Matov, Hine Matov, la 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 la. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome. We are a very elite group tonight, but we might not all know one another. So turn around or across the way. If there's somebody you don't know, please say Shabbat Shalom and introduce yourself. Folks. Great. On page 120 is Hadlakat Hanerot for the kindling of the lights of Shabbat. Dawn Tendler leads us this evening in candlelighting, page 120.
As we Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have lived in light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with his vote, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you.
Thank you. We turn to page 138, page 138 for L'Chadodi. We sing the first, the second, and the 9th verses of L'Chadodi, beginning 138.
L'Chadodi l'Ikrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat l'Ikrat Kala, L'Chadodi l'Ikrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat l'Ikrat Kala, L'Chadodi l'Ikrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat l'Ikrat Kala, L'Chadodi l'Ikrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat l'Ikrat Kala. Shalom b'safo v'dibur echad, Ishme'anu el ha'echad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem tiferet v'nitilah, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala, L'ikrat Shabbat l'chuven elcha, Ki makor habracha, Merosh mikeren nesucha, Sofa aseh, B'mat Shabbat tefila, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala. Bo'i b'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'tzorah, Toch emunei segula, Bo'i chala, Bo'i chala, Bo'i chala, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala, L'chadodi l'ikrat kala, B'nei Shabbat l'ikrat kala.
We turn to page 144, page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yikda b'yikda shemei rabba,
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yu'etei v'yamlik malchutei, B'chayechonu yomechon, Uv'chayedechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uv'izman kari, B'yimeru, Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevorach, Le'alam u'le'omaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yipar, V'yiromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalei, V'yithalal, Shemei Rekudisha,
Brechu.
Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, Tush bechata v'dechemata, Damiran be'alma b'imeru. Amen.
Page 146, we invite those who are able to rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Across the page, on page 147, we read together in English the second reading on the page. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. On page 150 is Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadita Alkein Adonai Eloheinu Shomeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach b'kecha V'nishma b'divrei Toratecha U'lemitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem ve'yere yomam v'layla.
Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
Please be seated. Page 154 for the Ve'ahavta. We join together with Linda.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shidantam levanecha v'dibartam bam b'shivtecha b'vetecha uvleftecha v'derech u'shokbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot aliotecha v'hayu letotafot b'einecha u'chtavtam al mizuzot betecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet, we turn to page 157. We read responsively the second reading on the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Michamocha, page 158.
La 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 la.
Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Bochat Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. I read at the bottom of page 160. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. Bochat Adonai, plesu kat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. On page 162, Yismechu, the second Hebrew paragraph down on the page. Yismechu ve'malachutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat, v'korei onei Shabbat. Yismechu ve'malachutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat, v'korei onei Shabbat. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat
Vikore
V'Kodesh Shabbat.
Vyashvi
Ratzita Bo,
Ratzitabo Vikidash Tasha and not Yami Otokarata Shama. Yes,
Shomrei, 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 Shabbat
Vikore Shabbat. Yes, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat. Vikore
Shomrei, 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 Shabbat Vikore Kodesh Shabbat. Yismichu L'malahutecha. Shomrei, 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 Shabbat.
Vikore
Our service now continues, page 164, with the tefillah. We invite those who are able to rise. The prayers that we will be chanting around the even-numbered pages, beginning page 164, continuing to page 170.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Agi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avotenu Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Velohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Velohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur Ha'hanayah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'kaneh HaKol V'zocher Chasevot V'imahot Umevi Gula Lifnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magid Abraham V'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lihoshia Mechakel Chayim Mechesed Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim Sohomech Noflim V'Raveh Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishelei Afar Michamalcha Bal Gevurot Umido Melech Melech Menit Umekayeh Umatzmiah Yeshua V'ne'eman Atai HaChayotai
praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. It's written in the Talmud, Rabban Simeon ben Gamaliel said, Al Shlosha Devarim, that the world stands on three things, on truth, on justice, and on peace. The vision is that of a tripod. And on that tripod, there are three legs, truth, justice, and peace. As it is said, and he justifies this with a quote from the book of Zechariah, execute truth, justice, and peace within your gates. These three are interlinked, the rabbi continues. When justice is done, truth is achieved, and peace is established. Our greatest hope is for shalom, for peace and wholeness in realm upon realm. May our people and all peoples know the blessing of peace. May our pursuit of justice and truth help to establish the process of peace. We sing Shalom Rav for abundant peace, page 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Yitahu Melech Adon Lekol HaShalom. Yitahu Melech Adon Lekol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Beko be'enecha libarek et amecha Yisrael. Beko le'tu b'chosha b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Ocha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Silent prayer will be found on page 180.
Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
Counting the Omer in this season, we symbolically journey from the shore of the sea to receiving the Torah at Sinai. That is, from freedom to responsibility. This insight, or the insight, it's been learned anew in this very century in the aftermath of the Arab Spring. In other words, that freedom cannot survive. Freedom never survives unless it is anchored in law and commitment. That Passover has to lead to Shavuot. That Exodus has to lead to Sinai and to Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al tzvat omer. And we praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who makes us holy through commandments and commands us to count the Omer, this period of time from Passover to Shavuot. Hayom shloshim yom shehem arba Shavuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is the 30th day, making it 4 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. We now turn to page 364. We invite those who are able to rise for Ki Mitzion, as the Torah will be taken from the ark.
Ki Mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion tetzei Torah, Udebar Adonai mirushalayim. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Duladonai iti umeromema shemo yata lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagivura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'chahod ki kol bashamayim uvaretz lekol bashamayim uvaretz lecha Adonai hamalacha himaniv lasi lechol lerot. Hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom, shalom, shalom alechem, hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom alechem, hey baby shalom, shalom, shalom alechem.
Please be seated. Encountering the weekly Torah portion on Shabbat is a way of forging one's Jewish identity. For in so doing, we link ourselves with past generations and their diverse perspectives, and with the timeless wisdom of the ages, and with one another. The Torah begins with a calendar, 7 days. And Lindsay's in the intro class. I always talked about that at the beginning. We start with a calendar, and then we get another calendar. We're just past the center of the Torah, and we have another calendar detailing the holy days. Because of the organization of time is central to our consciousness. This calendar begins, as we shall hear, with Shabbat, and then discusses Passover, and then this period right now as we ready for the next holiday of Shavuot, and we'll talk about the Omer in the segment which I'll be reading. And now a peculiarity that grabbed the attention of many of our rabbinical commentators, and David, you were in class that day when we were doing this in Torah study. Why would Shabbat be included in the list of annual holidays? As Shabbat is not an annual holiday, it comes each week. And in ancient times, it was the Beit Din, it was the rabbinical court that proclaimed the holidays on their fixed dates. Amongst the answers is that of Maimonides, who explained how elsewhere in the Torah, instructions about Shabbat precede the building of a sanctuary. And in order to teach us that just as the command to build the sanctuary cannot override Shabbat, you still have to have Shabbat even if you're building a sanctuary, so too our celebrations of festivals should never be to the exclusion of Shabbat. Shabbat is to be treasured in and of itself. Earlier this year, I listened to a podcast from the New York Times, and it was an interview between Ezra Klein and the author Judith Shulevitz. And she makes the point that is perhaps obvious, but it was brilliant and really new to me. She said that it's impossible to keep Shabbat without a community of like-minded people. It's just too hard to do otherwise. So however we observe a Shabbat, a Sabbath, however we take some time for renewal and for refreshment, may we do so, at least in these parts, aware that there is a community, likewise focused on distinguishing this time in some way from others' times. May our communal prayers in the Hebrew and the considerations of identity and the community and spiritual awareness of Shabbat be a positive constant on our individual calendars and our weekly calendars. Finally, speaking of calendars, I certainly associate this portion with none other than Peggy Klein, because Peggy had elected to become an adult bat mitzvah to this Torah portion. And in so doing, she read and translated these words. It was a few years back. A few, okay. But the passage of time only reinforces the beauty of engagement. As such, we're delighted V'ta'amod Malka that Peggy comes forward for our Aliyah. Yeah, so Peggy was the first adult B'nai Mitzvah and first Bat Mitzvah. She sort of set the gold standard. Linda followed, yeah, absolutely. Page 927 in the Chumash, page 927, chapter 23, verse 1. Here we are.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor. And Adonai God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, ve'amarta alehem, and say to them, Moedei Adonai asher tikru, the appointed seasons of Adonai that you shall proclaim. Atem mikrei kodesh, you're going to call them holy, proclaim them sacred. Elahem Adai, and these are my appointed seasons. Sheshet yamim ta'aseh melacha, 6 days you shall do your work. Uvayom hashvi'i, Shabbat, Shabbaton, Mikra Kodesh. But the seventh day shall be a Sabbath of Sabbaths. You shall call it holy. Kol melechet avodah, all manner of work, lo ta'aseh, do not do. Shabbati, it is a Sabbath, l'Adonai, to God, b'chol moshvotechem, in all of your dwelling places. Ela moadai Adonai Mikra Kodesh. These are the appointed days that Adonai says are holy, asher tikru'otam, that you should proclaim them, b'moadam, in their season. B'chodesh harishon ba'arba'a asar l'chodesh, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, ben arbarim, in the evening, Pesach l'Adonai, it will be a Passover for Adonai. Passover comes in the first month, Rosh Hashanah comes in the seventh month, and on the 14th day is the Paschal Passover for Adonai. Uvachamisha asar yom, and on the 15th day, l'chodesh, of the month, Hazeh, of this month, Chag Hamatzot, is the holiday of matzah, l'Adonai, for God. Shivat yamim matzah tachelu, for 7 days you shall eat matzah. B'yom harishon mikra kodesh, the first day shall be declared holy. Yihyeh lachem kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, and you shall do no manner of work on that day. V'hikravtem ishe l'Adonai, and you will make a sacrifice, fire offering for God. Shivat yamim b'yom hashvi'i mikra kodesh, and the seventh day will also be a holy day, declared holy. Kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, and you shall not do work. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, and speak to the children of Israel, ve'amarta aleihem, and say to them, Ki tavo'u el ha'aretz, and when you enter the land, asher ani noten lachem, that I am giving you, u'kutzatem et katsira, that you shall take of the fruits, the first fruits, ve'avetem et omer, and you will take a sheaf of grain, reshit, of the first, katsirachem el hakohen, and you will give it to the priest.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. You know, we've been doing a lot with silver anniversaries in the past week, so. So very happy. There's another milestone. Do I hear another gala in the works? Or Peggy, thank you. That was just beautiful. David, can we invite you forward to raise our Torah, and Jerry to come forward to dress the Torah, as the Torah itself will be raised. The Zot Torah will be found on the bottom of page 370. For those who are able, we invite you to rise.
V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. La 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 la
Its Chaim will be found on the bottom of page 374. The Torah is a tree of life.
It's Chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomcheha meushar derachea dachenuvam v'chol tivotecha shalom. ונשובה חדש, חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Please be seated. As we offer the blessing for healing this Shabbat, we are mindful of Yvette Meckenberg, Pat Marignani, Shari Lynn Kochman, Tzvi Amina Tzvi Hirsch, Judy Sherman, Stuart Rabinowitz, Ron Saunders, Narit Hockhauser, and Herb Garber. There are also those for whom we pray privately. For those in our sanctuary, please share aloud the names of people for whom we likewise pray publicly this Shabbat.
Brody Filburn.
And for those on Zoom, we ask you to unmute and say aloud the names of those for whom we also pray this Shabbat.
Beth Abramson.
Jessica Ann Bryan and Irene Sweet.
For all, may the Holy One send healing and shelter and protection. Our prayer, page 371, Misha Berach.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Reading about the drone attack on the Kremlin, purported drone attack on the Kremlin, I was reminded of the 1999 bombing of apartments in Russia that spread fear across the country and helped to consolidate the power of Vladimir Putin. Later, Russian investigators raised questions implicating Russia's own security forces. And then those who raised questions were assassinated, such as when a formal official was poisoned in Great Britain. I was also reminded of the Reichstag fire, whose murky origins were seized upon by the Nazis to crack down on their opponents soon after Hitler became Germany's chancellor. Of course, I'm a rabbi, not a historian. Looking at the commentaries on this week's Torah portion, there's a midrash that speaks to the larger issue of Russia's ongoing invasion in Ukraine. The midrash itself is a lesson on the sacrificial offerings the food that was consumed as part of ancient worship and celebration on holidays. Our rabbis introduced the subject by quoting a biblical text from the book of Ecclesiastes. And this text says, "And God seeks that which is pursued." And God seeks that which is pursued. And our rabbis then provide a detailed explanation of what they think that verse means. And they say, always God seeks that which is pursued. The Holy One demands satisfaction for the blood of the pursued at the hands of the pursuer. Abel was pursued by Cain, and the Holy One chose Abel. Cain and Abel story. Noah was pursued by his generation, and the Holy One chose Noah. Abraham was pursued by Nimrod, and the Holy One chose Abraham. Isaac was pursued by the Philistines, and the Holy One chose Isaac. Jacob was pursued by Esau, and the Holy One chose Jacob. There seems to be a theme emerging here. Joseph was pursued by his brothers, and the Holy One chose Joseph. Moses was pursued by Pharaoh, and the Holy One chose Moses. David was pursued by Saul, and the Holy One chose David. Saul was pursued by the Philistines, and the Holy One chose Saul. Israel are pursued by the nations, and the Holy One chose Israel. In the case of the sacrifices, the text continues, also it is so. The Holy One of Blessing said, "The ox is pursued by the lion, the goat is pursued by the leopard, the lamb by the wolf. Do not offer unto me from those that pursue, but from those that are pursued." Hence it is written in this week's portion, when a bullock or sheep or a goat is brought forth, it may be acceptable for an offering. In other words, it would be acceptable, but if you tried to do a lion or a leopard or a wolf, that would not be acceptable. So let me break this down. The rabbis envision God as supportive of those who are unjustifiably attacked, and reference a number of biblical stories to emphasize how time and again God deplores persecution. Cain kills Abel, and God speaks on behalf of his innocent brother, on behalf of Cain. Noah stood out in his time for not succumbing to violence. The people around were all doing Hamas, crazy violence. Moses didn't, Noah didn't, and God determines to save Noah and his family. In the Midrash, King Nimrod tries to murder Abraham, but God protects Abraham. Isaac finds himself in a dispute with the Philistines over well water rights, and God protects Isaac. Esau nurses a plan to kill Jacob, but instead Jacob is able to flee. Joseph's brothers are ready to kill him, and they do in fact sell him into slavery. But God sides with Joseph and makes him second to Pharaoh in Egypt. A later Pharaoh seeks to arrest Moses, but Moses escapes and then returns to liberate the people. David is pursued by King Saul and his troops. David is a rebel to King Saul, but he becomes his successor. You see the pattern. Israel's God abhors bullying and injustice. In fact, that's why predatory animals are not considered clean or kosher. They are not to be ingested. That is, the cruelty of an oppressor, the violence and the terror are not to be internalized in us. As the Midrash indicates, From time immemorial, there are those intent upon preying upon those around them, turning others into objects. Autocrats like Nimrod or Pharaoh or Putin care little for human rights, individual freedom and dignity, or the rule of law. And while God, giving us free will, doesn't automatically stop them, our religious texts counsel that when we resist and counter indifference and cruelty in all its forms, God blesses this effort. The purported drone over the Kremlin isn't a pursuit of the innocent by a predator, but rather it's the opposite. From the larger geopolitics that dominate this moment to our far more personal and our daily choices about how to behave, about how we behave, may the teachings of our past help to guide our loyalties and lead our future. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will. Our service now continues on page 586 with the Elena. We invite those who are able to rise. Maura Dana, we're going to call you forward to open the ark. Page 586. The Elena that we'll be chanting is the second paragraph down on the page. Perfect.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kugei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot hadama, shelo samachalkenu kahem, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Thank you. Please be seated. Page 591 for the Ne'emar.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, אחד.
Page 598, page 598. At this moment in our service, we now call to mind our own beloved dead. We pray on their behalf. We voice the confidence that they are remembered for blessing. I ask that those in mourning or remembering the anniversary of the death of a loved one to please rise if you are able when their name is mentioned, whether you are in the sanctuary or joining us on Zoom. We note the death yesterday of Audrey Megiddo, mother of Matt. During Shloshim, we remember Judy Kipperman, mother of Eric, and Linda Schiff, wife of Haskell. We remember the yard sites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Rachel Danon, Carol Eisenberg, Martin Falk, Dora B. Fine, Aaron Frankel, Eli Gleiberman, Leo Goldberg, Morris Goodman, Linda Haberman, Leopold Isaac, Josepha W. Lichtenstein, Evelyn Benenson Sabin, Rose Sagel, Leslie Strauss, Ethel Weissman, and Marcus Howard Weissman. We ask our worshipers in our sanctuary, should you have a dear one to add, to please rise and say their name. We ask our worshipers online on Zoom to unmute and say the name of their loved one.
Phyllis DeLizzie.
For those in our sanctuary, should you wish, we invite you to offer a short remembrance of a dear one on our Kaddish list. And I see, Dan, you have the microphone.
Today's the Yortzeit for my dad. He would have been 109 years old. I mean, well, it's 109 years since his birth. He had a long and successful life after much adversity early on, and he was very, very good to us. And I continue on with a lot of his traditions. Outside today, all day, working in the yard is one of them.
By the way, he sold windows, and every house we moved to, we had like new windows, the best windows in the town, I think. I don't know, but he was very generous.
And your dad loved farming. Farming. And so good that you were outside. And we remember the Ukrainian victims of Russia's invasion. Each Shabbat, we also mention 6 names amongst the 6 million murdered in the Holocaust, the Shoah. This week we remember Esther Klein, Hugh Chasdan, Lev Shlemovitz, Adolf Kleinman, Herman Kleinman, and Miriam Kleinman. In remembrance and solidarity, and on behalf of those for whom there's no one but us to say Kaddish, we now invite all to rise if you are able. Our Kaddish prayer, page 598. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute ve'amlich malchute, B'chaye chon uvyome chon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mavarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kodesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran b'alma b'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Bimaru, amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Bimaru, amen. Zukranam lavracha. May their memories be for blessing, and let us say, amen. Please be seated. David Augenbraun is the treasurer of B'nai Israel, and he has this week's announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Shabbat here in person, which is wonderful to see everybody in person, and of course online as well. And Feliz Cinco de Mayo to all that are celebrating that. And thank you, Rabbi, for a wonderful service as always, and Linda, heartwarming music, and of course, Stephen, terrific job back there. Thank you so much for your tech operation. Any good news this week? Birthdays, anniversaries?
Birthdays?
Birthdays? Terrific. Okay. Stephen, some good news?
Actually, I'll say this in the microphone so everyone can hear it online too. As of today, because of everyone's generosity, last week's gala, celebrating 25 years with Rabbi Eric and 25 years as a congregation, and 25 years since Peggy Klein became a bar mitzvah, we have collected a total gross of $25,000.
Holy cow, wow, that's wonderful, really wonderful. Boy,
Thanks so much for everyone for being
Yes,
so
what a great
incredibly generous.
accomplishment.
It's amazing.
David's our treasurer. This is very good news.
very meaningful to me, particularly meaningful, and what a great accomplishment. So the hard work of Stephen and the committee that put that event together, wow, we're very fortunate, and really was a wonderful event as well. So, and thanks to the greater community. Dan?
Very, very happy to see a full proper quarter service.
Yes, it was very enjoyable. Agreed. Tomorrow morning, Torah study returns. We've had a bit of a hiatus. I attend and enjoy it very much. Anybody who's interested, 10:30 in person in the Zoom room. We have it here in the Zoom room and online you can attend. So they're really very wonderful educational sessions and really enjoyable. Sunday is Mitzvah Day at the B'nai Israel Religious School, and of course the Intro to Judaism class. I'm a graduate of that as well, many times over, and also would encourage you to take advantage of that, anyone who is so inclined. The funeral of Audrey Megiddo is at 1 p.m. at Temple Israel in Westport. A Shiva Minya is in Westport at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday is the Rabbi's Discussion Group, 11 a.m. Next Shabbat, services are scheduled outdoors, Campfire Shabbat. RSVP to our educator at educator@bnaiisrael.org for the dinner at 6:15 beforehand. B'nai Israel Southbury.org. Yes, sorry about that. Okay, and save the dates. Sunday, May 21st, 10:30 in the multi-purpose room. Learn about your iPhone, camera and photos, sending and receiving messages, texting, and FaceTiming with your family and friends. Confirmation Shabbat is May 26th. Pride Shabbat is June 2nd, featuring a special presentation from the international public speaker, Ben Green. Thursday evening, June 15th, save that date for the annual meeting. And the Animal Blessing Shabbat is June 16th. Always a lot of fun. Immediately after the Kiddush and Motzi is tonight's Oneg. The rabbi will be online to say hello about 15 minutes after the Motzi. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and have a great weekend.
David, thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Yigdal, I'm so thrilled. You're thrilled to have more of the Torah service. I'm thrilled that we're back to Yigdal as well. Page 628. What a beautiful text. Yigdal Elohim Chai Ve'yishtabach Nimsa V'yenidei Miuto Echad V'yen Yachid K'yichudo Ne'lam V'ganim Sof Le'achduto Ein Lo Demut HaGuf Ve'eno Guf Lo Na'aroch Elai Dushato Kadmon L'chol Davar Asher Nivra Rishon V'en Reshit L'Reshito Ye Olam Nata B'tocheinu Baruch Adei Hashem Tilato Ye Olam Nata
B'tocheinu Baruch Adei Hashem Tehilato.
Kiddush is on page 123, page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher asher kitshanu b'mitzvota v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lo mikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki banu v'chorta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
Okay. We had a staff meeting. It was, one of the items was with the wine that we had in these 2 Kiddush cups. Well, they got the message, so good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
May God's presence be with you and give you peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.